Hello Year 12, and welcome to our 9th video here in this series on finance. In today's exercise we want to look at credit card repayments. Credit cards can be fairly complicated beasts with different terms and conditions for each one. So it's very important with these that you read the question very carefully and interpret all of that information there. Just to explain a couple of things though, some credit cards will describe an interest-free period. In that case, any purchase that's made and paid off within that interest-free period, naturally, accrues no interest. So you only need to repay what was spent in the first place. Other credit cards will describe themselves as having no interest-free period. Credit cards may calculate the interest using compound or simple interest. And we again need to be careful in reading those questions. They must be described. Interest is always, I suppose, with credit cards calculated according to the number of days, and the interest rate that you're provided with might be quoted per annum, like somewhere around 20% per annum is fairly typical for a credit card, I suppose. You might be provided with a daily interest rate. Something to watch out for here, a really common mistake, is forgetting to divide the daily interest rate by 100 to convert it to a decimal. Because a daily interest rate is usually a very small number in the first place, usually a small decimal, and it looks like perhaps it's already been divided by 100, but it hasn't. Be very careful. So let's jump into an example straight away and we'll see what happens from there. Here we can see some important things. Right? Say we have compound interest. That's important to me. There's my rate and it's per annum. Okay, I'm just going to sort of extra highlight per annum to remind me I'm going to need to adjust that. No interest-free period, that's important as well. We have bought something to the value of $280. We pay it off 14 days later, and what is the total amount we paid? Because remember, when we're dealing with compound interest, we're calculating the total amount. When I'm calculating simple interest, I only calculate the interest. So, having read through all of those things, we can use the compound interest formula to calculate the total amount we're going to repay. I have an interest rate that's quoted per annum, so I need to adjust that to a daily interest rate, and my number of terms is 14 days. So we'll jump in. The amount that I'm going to repay is my principal or present value of $280 outside of 1 plus my rate, which is 18 over 365, and that's all over 100. Okay, we've got that, and then to the power of 14. Right. So that's my compound interest formula. I pull out the calculator and I'm going to type that in. Let's have a look here. Pull this down here so we can see the whole lot. So I want to type that in as it appears on my page. Whoops, that's not it. 280 outside of 1 plus, I'll put a bracket in, 18 over 365, close the bracket. Whoops. Over here and close the bracket. And then I do my fraction again over 100. Okay, it's important that you're watching what's going on here, that your fractions are expressed correctly, that your brackets are around the right terms, and that's to the power of 14. Okay, an advantage here with this calculator that I can see what I've written on my page. That expression looks very similar to what's appeared on the screen of my calculator. Now, I'm anticipating here an answer, the total amount, because it's compound interest, to be a number more than 280, but given that this is only over the course of 2 weeks, a very small part of a year, it's not going to be very much more than 280. So here's my answer, $281.94. $281.94, reading the question carefully. What is the total amount she paid for the clothing including the interest? That is the total amount. We've answered the question that was asked. Moving on to example 18 now, we have some sort of a table here, credit card statement. Important things to notice. 18% per annum flat. Right, a few important things there. What's the significance of saying flat? Whoa, something went wrong. Why do I say flat? Because that means simple interest. Righto. Per annum means I've got to adjust it to being a daily rate. I've got some dates and different balances here. So first thing it asked me to do is calculate the daily interest rate. That's easy enough. That's 18 divided by 365, 18 over 365. And to express it as a decimal, we'll put that over 100. Rightio. I'll put brackets here if we like. Doesn't really matter in this case, but I find that it just helps to be consistent there. So we're going to put in our bracket and say 18 over 365, my apologies, over 365, close that. And then we'll put that over 100, and we get, change using this FD, fraction to decimal, 0.00049315 should provide us with plenty of decimal places. So it's 0.00049315. Okay, that's the rate expressed as a decimal. If it was a percentage, it would be 0.04315%. That's the daily interest rate. Now, if the interest is calculated on the 1st of July, what is the total due? The total due, so we're not just talking about the interest here, but the total amount for the month of June. We're going to need to do here, we're going to need to do 4 interest calculations, then add all of those together and include something else there. We'll see this as we go along. So, the first thing I'm going to do is to calculate how much interest is accrued from the 1st of June until the 10th of June. Okay, so from here to here is 9 days. So let's do that part first. I'll just say 1st till the 10th. This is going to be a fairly long and a question with a fair bit of working. This is not likely to be an exam question because it requires you to do so many similar calculations. But nonetheless, you never know. So from the 1st till the 10th, what's this going to look like? Well, it is simple interest, remembering this is my interest rate, and the interest is PRN, so it's 900 was owing for those 9 days. So P times my rate, I'm going to rewrite this, see if you can follow, 0.18, that's 18%. 165, I prefer that to all the decimals. That's P times R times N is, we said it was 9 days. So the simple interest from the 1st till the 10th, let's pull out the calculator here, clear that away, 900 times 0.18 over 365. Now 365 and a quarter, I wouldn't complicate things any more than they need to be unless it very specifically says what value to use. Just go 365 days in a year. Right? And I get that. So the interest that I'm charged from the 1st of June to the 10th of June is about $4, $3.99. Okay, and so what I've done here is we calculated $3.99 interest over that first period from the 1st till the 10th. Right, then I've repeated the process from the 10th till the 15th of June, 15th till the 22nd of June, and the 22nd of June until the 1st of July, right, using the number of days and the amount owing, the balance, at each of those periods of time. So you can see here, I've calculated, and I'll just use a highlighter here, 4 different lots of interest, right, based on what was owing and for how long it was owed. So now, to come back to the question, what's the total due for the month of June? Okay, so just to separate here, those lines here. So, what's the total due? Well, I still owe $1,000 plus those 4 lots of interest. So my total is going to be 1,000 plus those 4 numbers, 399, 123, 293, and finally $4.93. No, 93 again. Right, add all those figures up. Oops. Hang on a tick here. What's going on? Okay, so back to the question. The total due is $1,013.08 for the month of June, making sure we've answered that question that was posed to us. And see, there's a fair bit of work in doing those. A lot of it fairly repetitive. A couple of things to be really careful: counting the days, being careful to adjust the interest rate to a daily rate, right? And frankly, just carrying all of those figures as you go along without making a typo. You know, you've got to be pretty careful. But that's all we're looking at in credit cards for the time being. Some things to remember: be careful of the interest rate, read the question very carefully, checking those terms and conditions, how the number of days are counted, what any interest-free period there might be, whether it's simple interest or compound interest, and whether you're asked to calculate the interest or the total amount owing. Righto, if you've got any questions, please make sure to jot them down so that you remember them when you get to class, to ask your teacher, and I'll see you there.